First up, we've got steam locomotive 1709, one of our operational display pieces, eagerly awaiting its next special occasion for a trip. Next up, we have the Governor General's carriage. In 1954, when Queen Elizabeth II visited Australia, she travelled around New South Wales in this carriage. Brooke's now going to take you for a look around the carriage.
This carriage is owned by the people of Australia.
We own it, but we're not allowed inside.
The carriage has a formal dining room, 5 bedrooms, and is beautifully finished in polished timber and gilt fittings. She was built in 1901 and has served every Governor-General since then.
All that fancy stuff for just one week?
No, this carriage is also used by visiting British royalty when they visit our country and need to travel.
I'll bet it has beautiful lights.
The rest of it is unadequate, madam. Now, if you'll excuse me, we're about to depart for Sydney and meet His Excellency. Good day.
Next up, we've got the prison van. Men on the left, because women are always right. Next up, we've got steam locomotive E18 and the mail van. Many years ago, post used to travel by rail, and it would be sorted and delivered in the mail van. And Brooks is now going to take you for a look at E18 and the mail van.
This is called a time machine, this one.
Okay, so yeah, I'll put that another stuff.
Oh yes, of course. One bundle for each of the spur lines. Goulburn will also want the mail for stations between it and Yass. We'll be passing through those stations tonight, but we're express from Goulburn to Yass with no stops. You understand that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Roy. But if we're passing through those other stations, why not stop for a couple of minutes and drop the mail?
Because we're on a rigid schedule, son. If we're late into Yass, we'll be late for every stop after that, and our timetable becomes a mess. The local train will take the mail down the line tomorrow during its regular run.
The regular run, I understand, yes. So the local train stops at those stations anyway, so it's more efficient than us stopping.
You've got it, Johnny.
Did you want to have a look at the engine up
The New
here?
South Wales Railways has many hundreds of trains running on thousands of miles of track around the state at the same time. Each and every train runs to its own very tight schedule to keep the system.
Next up, we've got one of our smallest locomotives, tank engine 1033. Next up, we've got an educational carriage, FZ909, for educational for drivers and train crew. And over here, we have CPH18 rail motor. Next up, we've got the Camden tram, which includes tank engine 2029 and these two carriages. Come with me and I'll show you the carriages. This carriage was for luggage and groceries. This carriage was for passengers. first and second class smoking and first and second class non-smoking, and a guards compartment. Next up, we've got the rest of the Royal train. Firstly, the State Governor's car. Follow me and I'll show you the rest of the Royal train. Premier travelled in this carriage. And this is the Railway Commissioner's carriage, boss of the railways. Next up, we've got some sleeping cars. Brooke's going to take you for a little look through, and at the end you'll see a buffet car which has its own kitchen.
Hi.
Hi, how you going?
Angus done the review.
Yeah, it's the deer bar. Next up, we've got the Silver City Comet. It used to travel around the Silver City itself, Broken Hill. Next up, we've got the Roundhouse workshop. This is where all the work's done on the diesel locomotives, the steam locomotives and the carriages. Restoration and repair. And if you look behind me, you can see diesel locomotive 7006. That is the only diesel locomotive that can fit onto this turntable with 3801. This turntable is 105 feet long, the exact same size as our Garrett steam locomotive 6040. Next up, we've got diesel electric locomotive 8646. This diesel locomotive is actually electric powered and will only travel on the line where there is electricity. Now, over here, we've got a row of red rattler carriages. This carriage here double story is the first double story in the world. Brooke's now going to take you for a look through our Red Rattler set. Next up we've got Bronze Wing, steam locomotive from the Illawarra Steelworks. Now follow me and I'll show you what's behind it. Now this big bucket used to travel behind the Bronze Wing, and this had scrap metal in it. And you could tip it over on its side and you could tip out the scrap metal into a big pit. Next up we've got steam locomotive 1905. The first steam locomotive to cross the Sydney Harbour Bridge when they were doing weight testing with a whole row of 19 class steam locomotives. Now, before you stop filming, Brooke, we'll have a look at the number here, 1905. What the number means is the first two numbers is your class number, the 19, which is means it's a 19 class, and the 05 means that it was the fifth 19 class made. Now we're going to show you a whole bunch of old style freight wagons. And the last one in the row is the Arnott's biscuit van. Next up, we've got the pay bus. This little pay bus used to travel along the line to pay all the railway workers. It's powered by a Ford V8 engine. Next up is our American-made Yank Tank 5910. Next up, we've got the sheep wagon here for you. It carries 200 sheep to keep them all in nice and tight so there's no accidents. Just like a peak hour train on the Sydney network. Measuring 105 feet long, as I said before. This is steam locomotive Garrett 6040. Next up, a very important diesel locomotive. Our very first diesel locomotive in New South Wales, and this also pulled the Royal Train in 1954. Built in 1943, the next steam locomotive is a crowd favourite and has done some marvellous things on the railways, including being the first train to go from Sydney to Perth and back again, holding the speed record between Sydney and Newcastle, and being the only steam locomotive to go to every single state in Australia, except Tasmania. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I give you iconic locomotive 3801.
It's steam burning hot water, boiling. Take the skin It's not owned by us either. That's all right, don't I? No, thank you, mate. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cool. 2 seats.